What it do, cuckolds? It's a good time of the day for your boy because I only have one quick thing I need to do before I'm done for the weekend for work, because the hater doesn't work on Fridays and Saturdays because that's how he rolls. And I figured before I finish everything, I got to do a video today, right? And what video is more appropriate than this one, right? Let's face it, cucks. The truth is the truth. And once again, the hater was validated. Now, unlike other times when the hater has been right, this one, I'm not even going to take credit for because I think everyone knew this. You know what I'm saying? Well, not everyone, but, you know, a significant portion of the fan base knew that Cody Rhodes' title reign would end up being a colossal disaster. A few videos ago, I talked about how when Raw and SmackDown move shows, there is a shift in viewership, of course. Now, one thing that I didn't mention is that the last episode on Fox also got like a 1.7. Well, I mean, I didn't mention it, but I was like, it's an outlier. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was the drop-off point. People were like, oh, we're tired of this shit, you know? It's the same thing. And honestly, it would make sense because there's other things to watch, especially now. Like September is the month where everything comes back. So it's like now you actually have competition that you don't have during the summer. You got football, obviously. You got all the other sports are either back or are gonna come back. Then you've also got like all new shows that are starting, etc. But anyways, one thing that I wanted to address in this video about the Cody Rhodes disaster of an experiment, disaster kick, you know what I mean, is this, right? A lot of people, there was a mini debate that I got to with one of the people that watched the video, and he was like, nobody thought that Cody was gonna save the WWE, right? Nobody was saying it was bad and Cody was gonna save it. Yes, they were, right? That's like one thing that I keep hearing. Like now, the narrative post-facto has changed. Well, nobody said Cody was going to do things good. Yes, they did. As a matter of fact, that was the entire premise of WrestleMania Night 2. It was literally, and Night 1, it was literally the changing of the guard. The idea was Roman Reigns is Vince's boy, right? And now Triple H, in the beginning of the Triple H era, is going to insert his boy, right? That's what they told it to us straight up. Like, they even called it a new era. Stephanie McMahon came out and she was like, it's now the Paul Levesque era. And the whole point of having a new era was that things are getting better. You can look at other people that talk about wrestling, like Chris Van Vliet is like, oh, things are changing now that The Rock is here. Oh, once Vince McMahon is gone, things are going to get better, right? And now, people like the guy that I was debating refuse to accept that they're just completely wrong. And now they move the goalpost and say things like, nobody said it was going to get better. Yes, you did. For years, people said, once Vince McMahon leaves and Triple H takes the reins, it's going to get better. This happened, and Triple H even christened it a new era, the Triple H era, right? The entire point is this era is going to be unlike the other era. And he was partly right in the sense that it's even worse, right? But realistically, you know, jokes aside, it's the same crap, right? It's the same crap. Now, again, I'm not placing all the blame on Cody Rhodes. That's a big burden to bear, right? And quite frankly, Roman Reigns is back, and even he could only draw 1.7 million, right? That's because people are starting to lose interest in him too. The reality is what the reality is. Cody Rhodes being put as champion made no difference whatsoever. It was a complete waste of time. And as we've seen, right, the more you give fans what they want, the more they go away. This is a weird and unexpected consequence of giving the fans what they want, but it does make sense. And your boy is going to explain it to all of you as usual, right? The reason that the Cody Rhodes experiment failed is predicated around one principle. And that principle is people are stupid. People think they know what they want, but they don't. Now, the hater never watched Game of Thrones. I watched the first season, and then when the dragons showed up, I was like, oh, wait a second. I'm a grown man. You know what I'm saying? I thought the dragons were like metaphorical figures, like, and the dragon eggs were just symbols of power. You know, I didn't think that we were actually going to see dragons. What's next, vampires? You know what I'm saying? So I stopped watching that garbage. But a lot of people say that the ending wasn't what they wanted. Now, I've never seen it, so I can't speak to it, right? But the idea is, it's not supposed to be what you want. This is part, as in my personal opinion, of this new generation of spoiled brats who think that the only conclusion of something is the conclusion that they desire, right? And it's also a very American thing, right? Because in the rest of the world, people teach their children, and in America they do too, like in the South and stuff, people do teach their kids these things. But in America, generally, nobody teaches their kids that sometimes things don't go the way you want. That's why everyone's always upset in America. That's why like 50% of people are on psychotropics or therapy, right? Because sometimes in the real world, things don't go as they want. Sometimes they can't, right? If I want one thing and you want the same thing and there's only one of it, only one of us is getting it. One of us is going to be disappointed. And if there's three of us, two of us are going to be disappointed, right? That's how the world works. But in wrestling, this is extremely true because wrestling self-selects for very dumb people usually, and also for very spoiled people, right? Very spoiled, childish people. So when they get what they want, right, they nitpick that too. And once they get what they want, it's like, why am I watching now? I got what I wanted, bye, right? Oh, I got the ending that I wanted? Okay, bye. That's exactly what's happening over time, right? And now I want to double down on the dumbass argument that people make of like, now people watch things differently. First of all, no, they don't. TV is still huge, right? TV is still the #1 way people watch TV shows. Now, there's other formats, right, which they take into account, right? Like Hulu and things like that. They take those into account, right? But anytime someone tunes into a TV station, they know how many people are watching. The ad revenue is important, and they figure this out. Now, there are people that pirate the shows, right? They pirate, I don't know why, but they even pirate SmackDown, right? They don't watch it on Fox, they might watch it on some streaming site or whatever, right? But it doesn't matter. All that stuff gets aggregated into the additional views. There's another metric that they add afterwards that takes into account things like fucking, Hulu views and Netflix views and everything like that. They do this. Netflix doesn't report it, but a lot of people do report it, right? Think about this. It's like nowadays, people still have platinum albums, right? People still sell, quote unquote, like 1 million records, but nobody's buying a record anymore. We just listen to it on Spotify and YouTube. But they have found new metrics to basically compartmentalize the metrics that we have now and convert them to something comparable. The same thing happens with TV. Number two, while this shift in watching things online may explain the difference between now and 1983, it does not explain why the viewership has gone down in the last 10 years. In the last 10 years, we haven't had any major innovations in streaming. We really haven't. It's the same shit we had 10 years ago. I had Netflix, I had Hulu, I had YouTube, I had all these things 10 years ago, but the ratings still kept going down. So how do you explain that, right? And as a matter of fact, that's the part that matters the most to us, right? You can maybe say that, okay, if the Attitude Era was on today, they'd have like 1 million fewer viewers, let's say, right? But you cannot say that things aren't going down in the short to mid-term, right? You cannot say this. As a matter of fact, SmackDown, and here's where the knowledge base of a lot of the dumbasses on the internet stops, and that's why the hater is here to save the day. The way that TV ratings work is as follows, right? A company does something good, and they get viewership, right? I'll give you a great example of this. The show Tulsa King, right? The show Tulsa King, starring Stallone, which is a pretty good show, right? Premiered on Amazon Prime, right? Now it's going to re-premiere on CBS, right? The show was so successful on Amazon Prime that they're like, oh, we can milk this dry, right? So they offered the people that made it, Tyler Sheridan and the people that are behind it, money to take this show and put it now on CBS, right? This is unprecedented, right? The same thing happened with other shows. Like AMC, which was a dying network, was basically saved by Walking Dead, right? These things happen. Now, here's the problem, right? When a show does well for a certain amount of time, they have the opportunity to sign themselves different deals. WWE did this. They signed a very, very lucrative deal with Fox. Now, what happened was Fox realized at some point, probably the next day, right? If Fox had asked me, I would have been like, this is a losing proposition. But they made their own determination because they have the figures and everything, right? And they thought, okay, we're going to have this on Fox for 5 years with an option, I think it was, to renew 1 year, which means that at the end of the 5 years, they have an opportunity to extend it by 1 year, and WWE cannot say no, right? Then after that, they can negotiate a new contract. Not only did they not negotiate a new contract, they didn't exercise their option. In other words, they realized that what they thought was going to happen wasn't happening, right? So you can present this in a number of ways. The most reasonable way this would be presented in a 5-paragraph essay is that before the Fox deal, SmackDown was doing very well. So well, in fact, that Fox thought, if we take SmackDown, we're going to continue to grow it, or at the very least, it's going to stay stagnant, and we're going to make our money, right? Now, when that doesn't happen, the network with the most pull, Fox is one of them, CBS is another one, these networks say, you know what? I have like 45 people coming tomorrow. to pitch me their shows, and I don't have to pay them $2 billion or whatever the fuck they paid SmackDown, right? I don't have to pay them anything. I'll pay them $20 in a t-shirt. And if the show picks up, it could be the next Walking Dead. So that's what they're gonna do, right? They're gonna put something else on Friday nights instead of SmackDown. You know, we can probably check tomorrow what they're gonna put. They'll probably put like the movie U.S. Marshals or something. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. Anything will outdraw SmackDown, right? But the idea stands, right? The fact that they were demoted, people are just like willing to take that and present it as like as a non-factor, right? People are like, well, the reason the viewership dropped is because they changed networks. Okay, fine. Why did they change networks, right? There's a reason why. It didn't just randomly happen. You know, people think like WWE had the choice to be on Fox, but they chose to be on USA. No, they were forced to go on USA because they were not performing. And as a result of not performing, they have to go to a network where they'll perform even less. In other words, the viewership they get at USA Network is directly proportionate to what they were able to achieve on Fox. These things don't happen on a vacuum, right? And all of this comes down to something that happened in the last few years, since the Fox deal, really, right? Now, Cody was on Raw, but Raw was also getting 1.6, right? So he wasn't drawing there either. Now he moves to SmackDown. As a result of that, they get demoted, right? And the guy was saying they probably made the decision before Cody moved to SmackDown. I don't know, because, like, just so you understand, and so people understand, the things that we see on WWE, Fox knows what's going to happen beforehand. Fox doesn't wait for Triple H to come up with a brilliant storyline. Fox, as with every other show, orders the episodes, right? WWE is live, so it's a little bit different. But they order the episodes, then they screen. They're like, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Let's see how this works out, right? This is not a game, you dumb fucks. It's not like Fox just gives them money and they're like, do whatever the fuck you want. That's not how business works. Fox sees it and they're like, oh, shit's going down the drain. We need you to boost this up. And they're like, okay, we're going to then bring The Rock on SmackDown. We're going to then bring Rhodes on SmackDown. And none of that had any impact that was long-term and successful to the point where Fox was eventually placated and happy to stay with them, right? So this idea that like we're supposed to excuse a 500,000 drop in ratings, 500,000 drop in viewership because they changed networks doesn't take into account the reason why they changed networks, because they suck, right? And the reason why they don't get the same viewership is still tied to the root cause of they suck. If they were doing well on Fox, right? If they were able to raise their profile like they were supposed to, right? Because believe me, when they signed a deal with Fox, their goal was not to eventually go back to USA. Their goal was to stay on Fox. You dumb fucks. That's why they signed the deal for Netflix only for Raw, because they're like, oh, we can stay on Fox and make a lot more money than Netflix is giving us. That's exactly what's happening. But people that have never taken an economics or a business course don't understand this at all. So that's what the hater's here. The hater's not here just for the comedy and the hate. He's here to provide knowledge, cucks. You know? So a lot of people are like, no, none of this is Cody's fault. Everything is still going great. No, it's not going great. It's going abysmally. Now, they might make more money doing other things, right? WWE, like, they've expanded their reach significantly. And nobody wants to acknowledge that either, right? I'll give you a great example. Video games are far more profitable today than they were in the past. Not only do more people play video games, but video games now are, the production cost of video games in terms of producing actual discs has gone down drastically, right? So now they can just put everything online. Their profit margins go up, right? They've reworked contracts, right? They've got more sponsorships. Their action figure game is much bigger, right? Their online presence is obviously growing by like every month, right? They have one of the biggest YouTube channels. They make millions of dollars on that alone, right? These are things that didn't exist in the 90s, right? So they're gonna have ways to make money that are commensurate to today's standards, right? But this doesn't mean that you abandon the other ways to make money. In other words, just because you can sell pizzas online doesn't mean that you close the pizzeria, right? And you don't let anyone sit there and eat pizza. If the pizzeria has been profitable for 30 years, you keep the pizzeria open, you hope it continues to be profitable, and then in addition to that, you make more money by selling pizzas. What WWE is doing is they're closing down the pizzeria. That's exactly what's happening, right? I mean, not yet, but because now the pizzeria was forced to move from like fucking Rodeo Drive to fucking Compton, you know? It moved from Manhattan to fucking Newark, New Jersey, which I love, by the way, but you understand what I'm getting at. You see what I'm saying? You move the pizzeria down until there's no pizzeria. Or the pizzeria ends up on Netflix and all your pizzas are just online now. And nobody can tell you it tastes like shit, right? Because Netflix doesn't provide data. You see what I'm getting at? I mean, of course they have data. They don't provide it to the public. So all we know like Raw could be getting 200,000 views, which, I mean, they're going to get more than that, but not by much. They're going to drop under 1 million on Netflix. Netflix has 1 million other things to watch. You know, the Netflix demographic is not going to suddenly start watching Raw. I don't think so, at least. But who knows, right? Anything's possible. Netflix and those jobbers have figured all of this out. But what they haven't figured out is WWE's steps towards the future. If this is going to be a digital-only company, right, where there's no TV presence, there's no presence of what made WWE the WWE that we know and love, then the rest of us have to understand that this failed, right? The Cody Rhodes experiment and the decline of WWE was predicted by people like me and virtually everyone else who had a brain. It's as simple as that. It's like you present the guy who 20 years ago was a jobber as the champion, and people can't help but think, wait a second, the Stardust is the champion? Anyone that might still be around, they're like, Stardust is the champion? Wow, they really haven't found any new stars, right? And then you show them Roman Reigns, and they're like, oh yeah, this guy's good, but like, he's like 6'2", like 230 pounds. He's like basically he's like the size of Matt Hardy, more or less, right? Like, he has more attributes than Matt Hardy. He's better looking. He's got a lot of other value, but he's the size of Matt Hardy. It's like, if you put like I don't know, Brock Lesnar next to Roman Reigns when they did that, you see the difference. When you put The Rock versus Roman Reigns, like, that was one of the worst things they did. In that tag team match, where it was like The Rock and Roman versus Cody and Seth Rollins, right? It's like, you're like, holy shit. You're like, I forgot how big The Rock is. All these three guys look like jobbers. Like, they don't belong in the same ring whatsoever, right? And Cody Rhodes is the one that came out on top of that, you know, on night 2. So with all that being said, everything's gone down the drain if you ask your boy. You know, WWE is not working out well. You know, they lost their big TV deal. Netflix is going to keep them around for a while. And before you know it, Michael Cole's going to be telling us WWE Raw is returning home to USA Network. Mark my words. They're going to be told, we are moving back home to USA Network. That's exactly how it's going to be presented once the Netflix deal fails as well, right? Because, you know, if Cody Rhodes is on SmackDown, and I will acknowledge that he has some star power, then what the hell is going to be left on Raw? Let's be real, motherfucks. Gunther versus Seth Rollins? People are not switching Squid Games off to watch Gunther versus Seth Rollins. They're going to be like, oh, this must be some little league wrestling that got like a TV deal, or that couldn't get a TV deal, so they got like a Netflix deal, and they wouldn't be far off. The only difference is that it's not a little league wrestling company. It's a big league wrestling company that is being treated like a little league wrestling company. And all of that cannot be blamed solely on Cody Rhodes, but because they insisted on making him the face of the Triple H era, I personally believe that Triple H and Cody Rhodes are the ones that have to take the blame. You know, the company's going down under their guidance, right? John Cena always said, he's like, if you're the man, as Ric Flair would say, right? The performance of the company is attributable to you, right? If you are the one that has the ball, if you're the running back, or maybe the wide receiver that just caught a pass, or perhaps you're a quarterback who's going for it himself, right? Or maybe you recovered a fumble, maybe you got an interception, who cares? If you have the ball, the focus is on you. You're the guy with the ball, Cody. So as far as I'm concerned, Cody Rhodes' ball handling skills suck ass, you know what I'm saying? And with that being said, I got nothing more to say about this, but other than the fact that, of course, your boy was right about basically everything once again. You know what I mean? Like, how many times do I have to be right? I'll never get tired of it, but you understand what I'm getting at. Cuckolds.